Now this is the first of 4 nearly new Deere 1025Rs. They all look beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
That is a bargain.
It looks like a bargain to me.
Be sure to press that like button, and we'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe to our channel. Thanks.
So we're at Ted Everett Auction in Monrovia, Indiana. That's the one we've been coming to occasionally. We've missed the last 3. We've been busy. They happen every other month, first Friday of the month. Now this is the first of 4 nearly new Deere 1025Rs. They all look beautiful. It's got 71 hours on it. We estimated $17,000 for all of these, each of these.
Let's see if we can come up with an estimate for these 1025Rs that are almost new. So I've started here by saying that the hours need to be less than 101. I don't put a minimum on it. And we can see some general facts up here. This is an auction history here of 359 results. The average has been 15,118, and the current dealer listings, 21,607. We'll go back to these auction results because that's kind of what we're dealing with here today. I'm sorting by sale date, and I think that's relevant here, and maybe we'll see that as we go along. But here's one, 88 hours, 15.3. This one's got a cab on it, but 15,000. Here's one with a backhoe for 17,000. A brand new one here for 16,000. Here's one at 17,000 in Mississippi and Wisconsin here, 18.5. I don't believe that one has a backhoe. Let's look at the trend here a little bit. The blue line here is the dealer listing average. The green dots are actual auction sales. Notice some of them seem to be way out of line. Well, I can click on it. We can see what's going on here. That's a cab tractor, right, with 54 hours, and it sold in 22. But so that's what each of these dots are the actual auction sales. The green line is an attempt to put in an average or kind of a trend line for the auction. And I'm really not sure that that's a perfect trend line here. I don't think it's jumped that much here, or maybe it didn't decline this much. Like you see, we really don't see any sales here that make it drop down here like this. So I think it's probably a little too active. It needs to be blended a little bit more based on those numbers. But in general, we can see a downward trend on the auction prices and an upward trend on the dealer listings. Just as an interesting point here, early November in 23, the 10th of November, we saw a jump. The 10th of November of 22, we saw a jump. The 20th of November, somewhere around there, we saw a jump in 21. Now, we're getting back here to where there's not nearly as much data, so these numbers are less reliable back here. The tool that we're working with is fairly new. I'll talk more about it in a little while, but it's taken them a while to get every dealer and every seller on board here, so you'll notice that the data gets more reliable as we move forward. In any case, we're seeing an auction average of somewhere around $15,000, and I really feel like that at this auction we should see some retail buyers and that these tractors all look phenomenal. So I'm expecting the prices on these tractors to go higher than this auction average. So that's where I've come up with my $17,000. Let's see what happens.
Any John Deere dealer in the world is going to ask you about $24,000. How much you got? 14,750.
He's not lying. 24,000 is what it's going to take to buy that new. And you know, auctioneers will tell you a story, but he's not telling the story here.
Now 70 hours also on 2.5. I get 15, 2.5, 15. Got a quick hitch, boys. Most of you don't get that one.
Now, we talked to a guy yesterday about auction psychology, and he said when there's 4 identical tractors like this, you want to buy the first one.
Sold $15,250.
Sold $15,250. That is a bargain.
It looks like a bargain to me. I want to tell you a little bit about the auction estimates that I've mentioned so far and will be mentioning throughout this episode. We've got a product called TractorZoomPro It's not available for free, and it's how we're getting these auction estimates. It's a subscription service. Now, there is a version of it that's available. It's called TractorZoom. It's available to all of you for free. It doesn't have the historical auction information public, but it does have future auctions, and it estimates certain tractors, like things that it thinks it can solidly estimate the values of. It's going to go ahead and estimate. For instance, late model Deere 1025Rs they have some average estimates that they think they would sell for. My favorite part of that is that you can go in and you can say, hey, I think that estimate's too low, I think it's too high. It's actually going to auction for more or less. And it's kind of a game. So I go through and I think, hey, I think this one's going to sell higher than that. And I want to see what my average is over time about guessing those auction values. So go to TractorZoom.com, sign up for free there. By the way, you can also put in your equipment, your specific equipment, and you can get their estimated value on your equipment as well. This is the 30-hour one. This is the lowest hours.
It actually has the covering still over the seat.
Got 30 hours on it.
So this is essentially identical to the other one, only it's got even less hours.
The tractor got to bouncing there a little bit left to right. I think the diff lock pedal is stuck. It's really not a big deal. It happens on these machines frequently, I guess you might say, especially if they're left outside and that diff lock's not exercised.
Now, what we've been seeing all year is that used tractor prices are going down while new tractor prices have gone up early in the year and have stayed steady the rest of the year. And so far, this is confirming that. He's got his diff lock pedal down. He's not sitting on it now, but it's engaged.
$15,000.
This is the junk one. This one's been rode hard and put away wet.
Flat tire. Does have wheel weights.
Okay, it's well after the air cleaner issue, so there's no issue there. But it has been worn. 60-inch mower. Battery's dead. I don't see an hour number listed here.
Motor joystick's missing its top part of the knob.
The seat, a bunch of this stuff's been taken apart and kind of halfway put back together. Quite frankly, this is one of the worst condition 1025Rs I've ever seen. Anyone who pays more than $8,000, $9,000 for this thing is not being very bright.
I think somebody will buy it not having looked at it very well, and I go 9,400.
9,400?
Yeah, the bucket's bent up as well, but
What is the size of this tractor is this?
this one's got wheel weights on it. Lower deck looks a little bit scratched up.
This is the one that I said was junk.
800 hours.
800 hours. We thought it'd been not well treated. The bucket is bent a little bit in the front.
I estimated 8,500. You estimated 9,400.
But that's if people came and looked at it and realized it wasn't in very good shape.
Yeah.
85, 86, 7, 85, 7, 8600, 8700, 600, 87, 8600, 7, 8600, 700, 8600, 7, looks cheap to me, boy.
It doesn't. It's not cheap.
Sold 8600.
Sold at 8,600.
6900.
I missed it by $100. Okay, here we go. Here's the third. This one's got 83 hours. I mean, I'd estimated 17 for all of these, and so far, yeah.
My camera keeps not focusing. Sorry. This one looks good.
down to 5, 14, 5, 14 down to now 5, 15, but there's a 50, I got 14, 5, 15, I got 14, 5, 15, 5, but this is the last one, thank God, 15, 5, I got 15. You'll get 2.5. I got 15 down, 2.5, 15 down, 15 2.5. I got 15 down, 2.5, 15 down, 15 down. You all done? 15 2.5. Sold at $15,000.
Sold at $15,000.
The auctioneer said this is the last one, thank God. I actually think there may be another one, but unbelievable. We'll talk more about that in a minute. This is the last one of the 4. Another new one. I believe this one has about 80 hours.
How many hours on this one? 87?
87 hours.
We're focusing on the 1025Rs in this episode, but we'll show you the rest of the auction, including a tractor that has 8,000 hours and still looks reasonably good in just a few days.
87 hours, got it all, boy.
He's got it all. He just told you so.
Now what we've seen so far is that these are selling cheaper than I would expect, and definitely cheaper compared to a new one. I think they're bargains. We're seeing the older tractors sell maybe above pricing that I would expect.
Yeah, I think that's odd.
The new ones here selling lower, at least in the John Deeres.
Now 15, but now 5, 15,
It's the last one here. Be interesting to see if that psychology means it might go a little higher.
You'll get 2.5, Gary, for a sell. 15, 2.5. I get 15,
Unbelievable.
2.5. Sold at $15,000.99.
So at $15,000.
All 4 of them sold at 15 or
Wow.
15,250.
Now, as a reminder, we'll show you all the other compact tractors that sold at this auction in our next episode. We thought it was worthwhile to focus on these particular tractors, and that lets us dive in just a little bit deeper to the compact tractor market. So what did we learn? Well, first we learned that this psychologist, no, he wasn't a psychologist, this random guy that we talked to in the yard, his psychology didn't work out, right? All these tractors sold at the same price, all 4 of these new ones. So waiting for the last one or bidding on the first one, and that in this case it didn't matter. So why were my estimates wrong? Well, maybe it's related to Mr. Psychology there. I don't think any retail buyers showed up. I think all 4 of these sold for wholesale. Now we're not able to track the bidders. It's just the 2 of us. We were quite busy. We were not able to see who did the bidding and figure out whether they're wholesale or not. But given that they all went within $100, yeah, either 15 or 15,250, within $100 or so of the estimates we saw on TractorZoomPro, I'm pretty sure these would have been professionally purchased here for resale in wherever they do their selling. One other aspect of that is I suspect for just slightly more money you could have walked home with a tractor. Sometimes you don't know because you'd say, hey, somebody could keep bidding against me as it goes higher, but in this case we had multiple buyers, none of them willing to go over that 15,250 mark. So I think you probably could have bought a tractor for 15,500 or 16,000 there. So I'd like to share some overall observations of the subcompact tractor market. We have seen new prices going upwards. Maybe until about the 4th quarter of this year, they seem to have stabilized a little bit. Meanwhile, we're seeing used prices go down. We saw a huge surge in the number of compact tractors purchased during the COVID era, 2021 and 2. That 3-year period, we saw a lot of tractors sold. We've seen a significant cooling here in 2023. At this point, we're seeing a bunch of those tractors sold during that surge come on the market as used. I think there are many reasons for that. There's a bunch of them that are normal, right? Maybe you had to move to the city, or maybe there was a divorce and you had to get rid of the tractor. Some people were just done with their projects. We've seen comments on Facebook recently saying, I'm ready to sell my tractor. I finished all the projects I had for it and ready to get rid of it. And of course, some people just want a larger tractor, so they're wanting to trade up. Now, these reasons are normal. Right, they happen all the time. I just think they're exaggerated in this scenario right now because of the COVID surge. But I really think there's a larger issue at play here. The economy that we're seeing is different than what we experienced during COVID, right? the inflationary pressures driving the new tractor prices up, but more so driving up our everyday expenses. In these small tractors, most people are using what we would call discretionary money or play money to buy these tractors. They're not using them to make money. They're just using them to get the jobs done around the house, and they can't justify big expenditures when the other household expenditures are eating up all their extra cash. So I really think that's resulting in a decline in demand. So you combine this surge of used tractors coming on the market with the decline of demand created by the inflation, and I think that's kind of resulting in the issues we're seeing now. Some say it was a fad, purchasing all these tractors during COVID, and that fad is over. It might be true, but it seems to me more like there's just no money. And folks that do have the tractors now are saying, hey, I just can't afford that payment. I need to get out from under that payment and start spending that money on my family. And I get it. I see a lot of folks talk about the economy and talk about different niches, and yet they don't provide concrete advice for how to react to the situation. And I'm going to try to do that here. Of course, my advice is worth what you're paying for it. But we do have some experience in this market, and so I'm going to try to provide some guidance for both buyers and potential sellers in this market I'm talking about small compact tractors, subcompact tractors. First, I would say focused on used. We're seeing that divergence of pricing you saw right here in this auction. The 0% financing for the new machines it's just not enough to make up for the difference in the pricing right now. There are some exceptions to this. One of our partners, 21st Century Equipment, centered in the Colorado area, has a really good deal right now on their remaining 2022 models. It's a deal that you won't see come along very often. There may be other dealers in your area that have a similar deal. If you can find good deals like that, well, snap them up. Those are still scenarios that are worth looking at a new tractor. A lot of these dealers are kind of stuck in this inventory glut as well. So don't pass up any opportunity to get one of those smoking deals. Check out 21stcenturyequipment.com for the ones that I specifically mentioned there. Now, I would be careful with some of these resellers, right? We're seeing this big divergence between new pricing and gently used pricing. The ones we looked at here, less than 100 hours, and they looked spotless. We're seeing these resellers take advantage of this. In fact, we've seen some guys that used to resell tractors and got out of the tractor reselling and are now back into it. They're just following the trend here, right? They can buy tractors inexpensively, and they're able to sell them to buyers that don't recognize this market decline quite as quickly as some other folks. Now, quite frankly, some of these resellers, they're really good at power washing, and they're really good at publicizing or marketing the availability of these tractors. And the question is, are those two features enough to justify the markups that you might see from these guys? If you're willing to do the legwork yourself, go to these auctions, do some of the private party research from Facebook Marketplace and some other places where you can look for used tractors, you can probably find these similar kind of deals that we've shown in this auction today. As you saw, that was auction average, and we've seen a history of auctions going for much less than that. Those averages that we showed even included backhoe tractors and tractors with cabs. So you should be able to find something in the $13,000 to $15,000 range. Take your time. You can find these deals as good as anyone else. Now, there is one thing you have to be aware of. You do have to be on your guard for scams. Now, we've talked about that in many episodes. We won't go into detail here. It's not really that hard to avoid. Make sure you get the serial number. Make sure you call your local John Deere dealer and ask them for history on that serial number. You'll learn a lot. For example, just learning that the owner of the tractor is the same person you're buying from will make a big difference right there. So it's easy enough to avoid the scams. You just need to take a few minutes and be a little bit skeptical at times, and you can work through that and get these deals for yourself. What if you're thinking about selling a tractor? The first thing I would say there is, if you're financially strapped and you need to get out of the tractor, well, go ahead and sell it. need to make sure that you take care of your family first, and you might lose a few dollars on the tractor, but it's best to go ahead and get out of it. Now, having said that, if you don't have financial issues and you have an opportunity to keep the tractor, I think this will reverse itself. These price declines will reverse themselves over time. It may take quite some time. In fact, I suspect prices may decline on used tractors for another year or so. I think that could easily happen. Who can say from that point forward? But if you have to sell, go ahead and sell. If you can afford to hold on to it without too much strain, then I think holding on to it would be a good thing, and you'll get some more use out of it. If you're thinking about trading up to a larger tractor, consider maybe keeping your subcompact tractor and buying that second tractor, right? There's value in having a second tractor around, and you can always sell it at a later date, maybe when the market is more conducive to that. But I do think having two tractors of two different sizes is incredibly valuable. So if you can afford it, that maybe is an option for you. If you decide to sell, go ahead and price the thing aggressively now, right? Don't try to get top dollar out of it. Go ahead and price it aggressively so that you can get it moved. There's a lot of them on Facebook Marketplace. Make sure that yours stands out. Just go ahead and get it sold. You'd rather have the bulk of the money than to have the last $500 on top. At least that's how I would think about it. So some broad predictions about the future, well, they're a little bit difficult to make. I do believe that these used tractor prices will decline a little bit further, because I don't think we've seen the end of this deluge, I would call it, of used tractors hitting the market. What makes it a little bit hard to predict is because this industry is behaving differently than some of the others around it. The used car industry, for example, used car prices are staying very, very near new prices. They've declined a little bit, but they're still staying pretty close to new car prices. Higher than at least long-term averages for used vehicles. But I think the difference there is that there weren't very many cars produced during COVID, and there were a bunch of tractors sold during COVID. So I think maybe that's what makes that different. Another market that we might typically look at to compare would be big ag, big tractors, or maybe construction, mini excavators and skid steers. And we're seeing that market to remain more resilient than what the compact tractors are. I'm circling back now to say that I think this is because people use discretionary finances. They use our extra money, right, to be able to buy these little tractors. And as we all know, there's just not a lot of extra money right now. And I don't foresee that changing for the next year or so, right? We'll see at that point. Something's going to have to change in the economy. You've got to be a lot smarter than me to make any more predictions on that. But I suspect if you're a buyer, now's not too bad of a time to buy. You might be able to buy a used machine a little cheaper next year, but maybe don't roll the dice. If you're a seller, if you need to sell to get out to take care of your family's finances, do it. I hope you find this advice actionable. I hope it's something that you can use to help you make a better decision. And I hope you enjoy our videos. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time on Tractor Time with Tim.
Jesus entered the temple courts and drove out all who were buying and selling there. He overturned the tables of the money changers and the benches of those selling doves. It is written, he said to them, "My house will be called a house of prayer, but you are making it a den of robbers."
Meanwhile, I kept the cat out of the way.
The whole time.
The whole time. He's just sat here.
They made faces at me the entire time. Both of them.
Yeah, we did. It's fun too. Didn't really bother him though.